Hi there. Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I'm the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. It seems to be a bit of a slow wind trying to get it to come on here. I hope everybody can hear me. I've got the mic on here. Should be able to get it. It looks like it's working. So, at any rate, we'll work as if it is working. Never done a live stream with the mic, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. Anyways, we're here tonight to do the episode called Hammer of the Gods. This is a new series of streams I'll be doing. I'm actually reconsidering that I may do both the other streams, the 70s hard rock rankers, and this one as opposites, so that one will come out one Thursday, the other Thursday. It kind of makes sense because Thursday night has turned out to be a decent night for me to do live streams, whereas the morning time, it's kind of hard to say. I don't know with all the construction going on in this building. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get that quiet time so I can do the stream. So I may go to that measure for Thursday nights and just not do any early morning live streams, but we're going to attempt to do one on Sunday. That's at least on my agenda to try anyways. So for Hammer of the Gods, which is the show here, is pretty much about metal. This show will always be about metal or heavy metal or speed metal or doom metal or some form of metal. That was my intent to do this that way, and that's the way I'm going to stick with it. So today I've chosen the topic on Iron Maiden, one of the new wave of heavy metal bands that came out in the early 1980s. Well, in the case of Maiden, I think it was earlier, but the kind of recognized as being in the 1980s, they had their kind of perennial, I guess, if you're kind of saying where this kind of started, probably started with Killers, Murders in the Rue Morgue. Those kind of songs were in there. I'm just going to order these things while I'm talking to you. So I've had a chance to examine my Iron Maiden collection over the last few days, and there was 3 albums actually that were still waiting to be listened to in my new album listening thing, which I try to do when I have time to do it. So I did listen to all 3 of them last night. Some of the one particular one I had to listen to before, at least online. I hadn't listened to it, the album that I had there, but I had listened to it online prior to owning it. So there you go. So I'm just kind of ordering these now. I thought they were in the right order, but I should have known they weren't. I don't even know if they're going to be in the right order once this is all said and done, but we'll try to get it done as best we can. Yeah, these ones are later ones. I guess it doesn't really matter what order the later ones are in. The earlier ones are the ones most people want to talk about anyway, so I'll just put them kind of here. I did get a new one today, but I will save it for new albums purchased at the end of the month. It's another Iron Maiden album. So I've indicated to myself by listening to those 3 yesterday that I have all but 4. So that would mean I have 13 Iron Maiden albums. Well, 12 going into today. So now I think I need 4 more. And I know which 4 they are. I wrote them all down. So, and he actually has them all because they had somebody donated their collection of Iron Maiden albums to him, or didn't donate, but sold them to him. So he has them all, but I can only get so many a week, right? So so for me, Iron Maiden is probably my second favorite metal band of all time. For a while there, they kind of dipped. So for the first couple of years of this channel, I wasn't listening to them at all. Kind of thought that they were past tense for me. I wasn't really interested in going any further with them. And then I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I ended up getting No Prayer for the Dying, which I listened to. I said, well, I'll give this one a try. People talk highly about it. So I started listening to it and discovered that I absolutely love the album. So it kind of brought them back to me. And that occurred probably late in 23. So it's been about the last year or so, and they've kind of soared back up for me and took their rightful spot ahead of Judas Priest, which they'd owned for 40 years and then lost it over a couple of years of this channel and now have gotten it back. So I'm happy to say that it's been a rebirth for them. And I've started listening to a lot of their stuff again, and I've come to realize how great they are. This is a band that's almost certainly going to end up in my group. I have a group of 9 now, which started out as a group of 7, and almost certainly this will be the 10th band. I'm sure of that. It's just a matter of giving it a little bit of time. I don't like to just declare somebody part of a band until I actually have the idea in my head and think about it for a while. But I think they're almost a shoe-in to get it. So anyways, I'm just going to go through their discography. The first half of it's probably in the correct order, and the back half, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. I'll try to get it as close to what it should be as it is. So I have 12 of their albums here. They have 17 in their discography, which means there's 5 missing. One of them I purchased today. It's actually out in the front room. I was looking at it. So, but it'll be, I'll talk about it when I get to the end of the month. I don't really want to give it away yet because I've already given away a few from that. So anyways, the first first album by them is this one. Eddie at birth, I guess. This is what he looked like as a child. They're one of the few bands that really have a renowned kind of mascot. I was thinking about it today while I was at work. How many other bands have a mascot? And I'm not sure that I can think of any offhand, but this one is probably the most famous mascot, Eddie. Nice shot of him here. Got a bit of a bad hair day going on here. So this album, very different, I think, than most of the Iron Maiden albums that have come out after it. There is, of course, the Phantom of the Opera, which is one of the songs I quite like by them prior to the pre-Bruce Dickinson era, if you want to call it that, with Paul Di'Anno on vocals. Prowler's on here, pretty solid song. And Charlotte the Harlot. Most of the other stuff is decent enough, but nothing really outstanding, at least for me. I don't mind this album, but I clearly think it's one of their weakest albums. And I apologize if that offends anybody. It's not meant to be an offense, just my own personal feeling. It might change too. So on here, you've got Steve Harris and Dave Murray, who've been with the band since the beginning. And then you have Clive Burr, who was with them on The Number of the Beast. And then you've got Paul Di'Anno and Dennis Stratton here on guitar. So a couple of guys that were members early on has changed over the time. To me, this album is a little more poppy than the other Iron Maiden albums, or maybe hard rock might be a better way to put it. This book is really thick, though. Wow. I can't believe how thick it is. How am I going to get that in there with that kind of thickness to it? Well, we might have to do some folding. Anyways, I think this album is a little bit more in the hard rock, maybe punk rock kind of vein. There's a lot of punkiness to this album. I never actually thought of Iron Maiden as a punky band, but early on, when they had Paul Di'Anno on vocals, he had a much punkier voice, and thus gave the band a little bit more of that feeling. Okay, I think it's good now. Let's see if it'll close. It did. So that's their debut album. Decent enough. I've probably listened to this maybe 5 times since I got it. Hasn't really warmed. I haven't really warmed up to it. I do like the artwork. Of course, I like the artwork with all the Iron Maiden albums. They're one of the best bands for artwork, and it's got a heavy tone at times to it, and there's some decent tracks on it. So definitely a good album. I know some people really like the early Iron Maiden a lot. I'm not a big fan of this particular album though. The next album up doesn't seem to be here. Oh, it's because it's still in the drawer. The one I used for display when I was doing the this week. So the next album up, of course, is Killers. Love the cover on this one. This one is one of my favorite covers. Looks almost psychotic here. I love the background stuff. It's like he's stalking the neighborhood looking for victims, right? And of course, this one, this particular one is a digipack. Not a big fan of digipacks. I think I only have maybe 2 or 3 digipacks in the Iron Maiden discography. Again, you've got pretty much the same lineup going forward here from the first album, with the exception that Adrian Smith has taken over guitars, one of the guitar spots. So very good. This album I like quite a bit more. This has a much more Iron Maiden sound to it, to me, and has some of the songs that I really like. Wrathchild is on here. Murders in the Rue Morgue. Genghis Khan. Where is it? I'm looking for Killers, the title track. Prodigal Son. These are all, to me, good, solid to great Iron Maiden songs. I like this kind of concert shot here on the back of the album. Yeah, this is much more to my liking than the first album. Paul Di'Anno sounds fantastic here. It's still got a little bit of that punky feel to it at times. And the rawness is really outstanding on this particular album. And many people like this album quite a bit too, and I can understand why. I think it's really the first of probably 6 or 7 albums in a row that are fantastic by this band. So the next album up, of course, is their seminal album. I think it's probably their album that most people would know. So when I say most people, like metal people will know all of their stuff. This album transcends the metal realm to the mainstream realm, and many people in the mainstream will know some of the stuff on this album and be aware of this album. And this album got a lot of attention because of the cover as well. But the thing about the cover is it's not anything really all that nastier than this one. You know, I just think it's because this album did so well. It got more mainstream attention, and then of course the mainstream attention people, they are not metal fans for the most part, and a lot of people on the mainstream probably don't like this album. But I think it's a great album. Hey, Grandizer, welcome. Yeah, so this is this was my entry point for Iron Maiden. This is where I came in. My friend had been talking to me since this album, so he was talking about how good this was. And he says, "Oh, they got a new singer. You got to check them out." And so I started. I started with this album. Was my first purchase. I like everything on this album. A lot of really memorable tracks. Stuff like "Children of the Dam" was one of my favorites early on. Of course, "The Prisoner," which I think is fantastic. They even have that part at the beginning of the movie, of the TV series, "The Prisoner," on it, which is really cool. "The Number of the Beast," of course, was probably my favorite song at the beginning. "Run to the Hills," very well known. This is kind of the song that brought this band to the mainstream. And they seem to have had one kind of like that on every album since that time period. "Gangland," really good. And then, of course, maybe the most iconic Iron Maiden song of all time, "Hallowed Be Thy Name," killer. So there's nothing really weak on this album, and a lot of really strong tracks on here. It's probably burned out for me. I think I've probably listened to it the story behind it is pretty simple. The title of the channel or the show that I'm doing every week is called Hammer of the Gods, and it's going to feature Iron Maiden this week. It's in reference to the Led Zeppelin song, Immigrant Song, where they talk about heavy metal on that song, and they use a term called Hammer of the Gods. So that's why I chose that as the title for the channel for this episode, not for the episode, for the live stream I'm going to do every week, but it could be featuring any metal band. That's why I chose it. Okay, so yes. So this is, of course, was produced by Martin Birch. I think he did them all. He might not have done the first album, but he did from Killers on. I think he did most of the stuff. Just absolutely great looking cover, memorable songs, big hits with the mainstream, and brought this band full frontal, so people knew who it was. Even metal people knew this band, but now it was bringing it to an audience that wasn't really a metal fans. Eddie is the name of the mascot, if you want, for Iron Maiden. They use him on every cover. I can't even think of any other bands that use mascots. I was trying to think of one today, but I couldn't think of any. I don't think so. I don't know that had anything to do with the band choosing that as a mascot. You'd have to go online and check it. I'd never heard that before. Doesn't mean that it isn't true. I just never heard it before. Well, I'm not sure that stuff was all early 70s. Iron Maiden, at least, did not really come out until the late 70s, early 80s, if I'm correct. Yeah, so this is their third studio album, their seminal album, the one that everybody remembers. All the Main Street people remember it. Great album, the one I was introduced to. No, it's called Hammer of the Gods, sorry. The sickle comes from hammer and sickle from the Soviet Union, if that's what you're referring to. Okay, so the next album out is generally, I believe, considered to be, by most Iron Maiden fans and by most people who follow heavy metal, to be Iron Maiden's best album. And that's Peace of Mind. This is also a digipack, one of the digipacks. I don't know what it is about this album. I mean, it's got the book like everything else in here, and there's a nice shot of everybody. It's also the first album with Nickel McBrain, their drummer, who just retired. This was his first album with them. Many considered this to be their best. I think a lot of people consider this to be their best album. It's got some big hits for them. Probably the most notable song is The Trooper. That's the one most people tend to think of as Iron Maiden's best songs. I don't know that it's their best song. I like it a lot. I think it's really good. Where Eagles Dare is on here. And of course, the one that attracted mainstream was The Flight of Icarus. That was played a lot on the radio. I think The Trooper was played quite a bit on the radio as well. This also has a few other notable songs. Quest for Fire, Revelations is on here. Die With Your Boots On. This is top to bottom a very strong album. I'm not sure why I never really took to this album as much as the other stuff. I think a lot of that is just that I didn't get this till much, much later. It wasn't one of the early Iron Maiden albums for me. I didn't purchase it till much later. And I think by that time, some of the songs Where Eagles Dare, The Trooper, and The Flight of Icarus were already songs I had listened to for years. So kind of the same thing happened with Wish You Were Here. I had heard all the stuff before I got the album, so it didn't have as big an impact on me. And that's likely the reason why I don't like it as much as I probably should. But still, great album. Their fourth, the first one with Nickel McBrain, their drummer. I hadn't heard that. That's where they got it. It's a possibility. I'm sure that if somebody else comes on here who knows a little bit about it, they'll be able to tell you. I didn't follow the background of the band or prior to them becoming a band as much. I know a little bit about their formation, but not as much about their history, and that's part of the reason why I chose to do them, is because this is something I'm trying to learn more about. But it's possible that Eddie may have come from that background. I'm not sure. Next album up, their fifth album. At least I think this is their fifth album. So this is from it doesn't say, of course, 1984, sorry. So they're moving right along here. So the same members on this one are also present on this one. This, to me, was the next best album. It's the other one. I have two Iron Maiden albums that have made masterpieces in my collection. This is one of them, Aces High. And, of course, another radio stable with the mainstream, which is 2 Minutes to Midnight. So they had, like I said, a series of those that came out in a row that were mainstream really well. I guess you would call them commercial heavy metal, as commercial as Iron Maiden gets. Also, this one has The Duelist, which is a really good song, and then, of course, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is one of their most famous songs and one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs. I'm not as crazy about this album cover, although it's very detailed and stuff. There's something kind of bland about it. Maybe it's because Eddie isn't really as outstanding on this album as he is on so many of the other ones. Like, he's obviously on the Sphinx here in the middle, but it's just not as dominating a cover as some of their other stuff. It's one of my least favorite of their albums. It's not their albums, but least favorite of their album art. But it does have some absolute killers. Aces High here, fantastic tune. Like I said, 2 Minutes to Midnight, probably the most, or one of the most famous of their commercial sounding songs. And then, of course, you've got The Duelist and Power Slave, and then Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Fantastic album. Lots of good stuff here. And also the beginning, to me, a little bit of it here, but a little bit more of it here of that progressive element that I think Iron Maiden isn't talked about as much, but really good. Yeah, the Aces High you're referring to is this album. It's called Power Slave. And Trooper is on Peace of Mind. And then Somewhere in Time is actually an album title. So the next album up is new to me. I just listened to it for the first time yesterday. I've known about it for years, of course, but every time I've gone to buy stuff, it's not something that's been easily to find, so I don't really go looking for it. But I did see it one day and said, okay, this is one of those 1980 albums that I don't have. So this is called Somewhere in Time. I like this cover quite a bit. This album, when I listened to it yesterday, I felt like I was listening to some of the other stuff from Power Slave and Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. There's a little bit of all that going on here. Really good. None of these songs I recognize as being a fantastic mainstream kind of pop or hard rock mainstream commercial song that you got on the previous three albums, but still strong. Nice back picture here of the album. This is a pretty wicked looking Eddie here too, almost a cyborg looking Eddie here. There's a little Eddie up here on the side thing too, which I think was kind of neat. So yeah, this one is, I think, a better cover than its predecessor. And the album, I think, this has Alexander the Great, which is the one track on here that I knew. Pretty good. There's a lot of pretty heavy stuff on here. I sense already, having only listened to it once, that it's going to be one of my favorite other albums. So that's that's the next one up. Their sixth studio album, Somewhere in Time. So the next album is Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. I went through a period of time in the 90s where this was the only Iron Maiden album I was listening to, like, pretty much weekly all the time. It didn't get in my playlist because I went through a period of time in the 90s where I actually didn't really have a playlist. Just played whatever I wanted. Probably why I find having the playlist and having all these albums makes me want to listen more. And I went through a period of time in the 90s where I kind of was drifted from rock music a bit. I still listened to what I had. I just never went and purchased anything new. But I did purchase this album in the 90s and I liked it quite a bit. It was probably the only Iron Maiden album from that time period that I purchased. Like everything on this album. Probably destined to be a masterpiece for me. Really good stuff on here. Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, fantastic. The Evil That Men Do lives on and on, great. And then back to another kind of mainstream hit song, another kind of bringing them to the mainstream. Can I Play with Madness? Fantastic tune. Infinite Dreams opens up with Moonchild, great track, love it. The Clairvoyant is really good. Only the Good Die Young, Prophecy. Like, there's no bad songs on this. Probably the best two tracks on here are The Evil That Men Do, which I think is just actually fantastic, and Clairvoyant. Both those songs really good. This is one of their better covers too. Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, Eddie full frontal and center there. I love actually like the back part even better. I think it's just fantastic. So yeah, one of the great albums by them. So by this point, they've had 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be like their 6th great album in a row at this point. And then the next one up, I believe, is this one. So this is kind of the end, a bit of an end of an era for them. So this is the first one where Adrian Smith is no longer with the band. So they had these previous 5 albums were all with the same group of guys, or previous 4 anyways. And then you get this one, which I personally think is almost destined to be a masterpiece for me. It's got to wait its turn and stuff like that. But it could end up being my favorite Iron Maiden album at some point. There is just no bad stuff on this album. Just every song on this album is fantastic. Tail Gunner kind of got that mainstream feel to it as well. Then you got Holy Smoke, which is really good. No Prayer for the Dying, another good. Public Enemy #1, really good. Fate's Warning, I'm sure that's where Fate's Warning took their title. Well, maybe not. They might they were before this, so probably not, but it's great title. The Assassin, underrated, fantastic tune. Run Silent, Run Deep, Hooks in You. These are all like just one great track after another. And then you get Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, which is absolutely one of their best songs, a top 5 song for me, for them. Maybe the best song on this album. I love it quite a bit. And it ends up with Mother Russia, which has that real kind of Russian feel to it. It's a fantastic tune, right? Yeah, so if you hadn't have a chance to listen to this album, really good. Nice shot of the boys here too. This is one of the better album covers by them too. I do like this quite a bit. But I highly recommend this album. It's just so catchy. It was on my it was in my playlist for a good 11 months, which is, few albums get to that level with me. I think I've only had 2 albums that I can remember that ever went over a year. This one was pretty close, though. Pretty damn close. Okay, so the rest of these, I'm not sure they're in the right order. I'll try to put them in a little bit better semblance of order. I'm not sure what would come next. So we're just going to kind of talk to them randomly. So those ones I know are all in the right order. But the next 5 I have here aren't necessarily in the right order. We'll start with this one, though. I do like this album. So I listened to this a few months ago and a couple times. And it was okay. It's okay. There's nothing terribly memorable on it yet. Nothing terribly memorable for me yet. It may come, except for The Alchemist. I did like that quite a bit. I do like this cover. This is one of the better covers too. Absolutely wicked. Eddie in space. The hammer and the sickle there on Mother Russia. There you go. Hammer and sickle. I think the sickle that is spelled with a C, though. I could be wrong, but it might be. The Russians, they have 28 letters in their alphabet, so who knows? Maybe. Yeah, this is a good album. I like the cover here. It's one of my favorite of their covers. Probably will get a chance in my playlist at some point. The only thing about this I don't like, of course, is that it's a digipack, and I'm not a huge fan of digipacks, but this isn't too bad. It's not too bad. I do like this. The next album up we're going to do is this one, which I listened to a little bit of time ago. This is another one that will probably end up in my playlist. Another great cover, eh? Just a fantastic cover. One of the most memorable covers. Nice shot. This is with 6 guys now. So you've got both Adrian and Bruce Dickerson returning to the band. I don't know if they returned to the band on this album. This could be the one they returned to the band on. But it's a great cover. Some good tracks on here. Wicked Man, I like that. The Mirror of the Fallen Angel. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with this album, but those 2 songs I remember and I like them. I think this will end up being a good, strong album for me in the future as well. And now the 3 that were 2 of the 3 I listened to last night. I think, these 2, and the other one was the album that was back here. Where is it? So this one I listened to last night, Somewhere in Time, and then these 2 as well. So this Matter of Life and Death, this is pretty strong album. First time through, I don't recognize any of the songs, but it takes a few times for me. But I found this to be very Iron Maiden-ish, really strong. Cover's pretty good too. Pretty good. I don't see Eddie on it though. It's just a little bit disappointing. Well, maybe here if you count that thing. And it's on the back too, so I guess they're counting that as the Eddie. Not a bad album. This one here is the first kind of Iron Maiden album that I really didn't warm to, other than the debut album, which I don't dislike, but this one I found it didn't even sound like Iron Maiden really, other than the fact that Blaze Bayley this is his first album with the band. There's nothing wrong with his voice, but I think they toned the music down quite a bit on this. It's not as heavy metalish as some of their other stuff, and kind of sounds like Iron Maiden, but there's nothing really outstanding on it. I find this very different than the other Iron Maiden stuff. Maybe it'll just take me a while to warm to it, but this is, of course, Iron Maiden's The X Factor. One of the 2 Blaze Bayley ones. The other one I don't have yet. Could have got it today. I saw it, but I decided to buy the other one instead. I only had enough for one, so I bought one. And then, of course, this one, which is currently in my playlist, A Book of Souls. This is a great album. Just gets stronger every time I listen to it. Still fairly new, produced by Kevin Shirley. I can't even read the writing on this. It's almost Greek alphabet. See, this is a double album too, which I don't usually warm up to double albums for some reason. Not really sure why I don't, but I just don't really warm up to them as much as I probably should. This one, Book of Souls, double album, like I said. I do like this cover though. That's as good a Eddie as I've seen in a while. Really good. This one came out in 2015, and I believe this is their second to last album. So they produced this one, and then they produced another one about in 2021. They've only had a couple in the past decade, but this one is really strong. Really, really got a lot of Iron Maiden sound to it that I like. I'm going to go through the tracks as best as I can read them. If Eternity Should Fail, good track. Speed of Light, another good track. The Great Unknown, the Red and the Black, I like that track a lot. When the River Runs Deep, The Book of Souls, Death, Glory, Shadows of the Valley, Tears of a Clown, The Man of Sorrows, and then finally Empire of the Clouds. All of these tracks are pretty decent. Nothing has really stood out for me yet, but I like this a lot. I think it's going to be on in my playlist for probably another 2-3 months. So by the time we get to that time period, I'll probably do a look back at a classic on it. The albums will become a lot more familiar and stronger for me. I do like it a lot, though. I'm not sure where it'll end up ultimately in my top 5 Iron Maiden or top rank when I do an Iron Maiden rank. And once I get them all and I'm familiar with them, I will do a ranking with them. And I'm not sure exactly where this will fall, but I think it'll be fairly high on the list. So there you have it. That's what I have from my Iron Maiden collection, plus the one that I bought, which I will do at the end of the month. I'm not really sure. It just doesn't. I don't know if it was toned down or it almost sounds like they arranged the music a bit to fit Blaze Bailey's vocal sound. His vocal sound is good. It just doesn't sound like Bruce Dickinson. So maybe they wanted to kind of capture his vocal sound along with the music as opposed to just trying to make him fit into that sound. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. I'm sure some people will be able to give me some insight into that, or I might read something on them and do that. But it sounds different than the other albums. Not necessarily bad. I don't think it's bad or anything. I just think it sounds different. So I didn't even feel at some points with some of the tracks, I didn't even feel like I was really listening to an Iron Maiden album. But there's enough stuff on there that sounded like Iron Maiden, but there was just a few tracks that really didn't strike me as Iron Maiden stuff. So I can't say I hate it or dislike it or love it or any of that stuff. I just don't think I've had enough exposure to it yet to really kind of process it, what I'm getting here. I'm just making an observation. Now they could have done it for that reason, or maybe they just wanted to take a totally different kind of musical direction, do something different for a change. They had a new vocalist. Maybe they wanted to try and expand in that direction with the new vocalist. They did it when Bruce Dickinson came on, because if you listen to The Number of the Beast and compare that to Killers, there's a bit of a different sound to their music there. It's not totally different. A vocal, other than the vocals are different, but musically there's not a ton of difference between the two, but there's a little bit. This just sounds different from what I'm used to, that's all. So I'll give it a chance before I decide whether I love it or don't love it. Well, yeah, eventually I will. Eventually I'll do a ranking of the albums, but there's too many in the Iron Maiden discography. About half of the ones that, well, there's like 4 I haven't even listened to, and then there's about 4 or 5 of the ones I have that haven't had enough listening to. So that's 10 of your albums out of 17. So it's pretty hard to do a ranking when half of the albums you're not familiar with. It's not really doing justice to the band. Yeah, I'm not a greatest hits guy. I understand that you are. We've had this conversation on other shows about other stuff. I'm not. I don't generally listen to individual songs. I have my favorite songs on each album, but I prefer. So if I'm listening to 2 Minutes to Midnight, I'm not. I don't take it off of the album and play it with a set list of greatest hits. I would never. I don't even own an Iron Maiden greatest hits, and I know there are some of them. I like that song in the album setting that it's in. It fits into that album setting, and so I would listen to it as part of that album setting. That's the way I operate. But I understand a lot of people like to take their to go through a discography of their favorite band and take out all their favorite songs and put them in a playlist and play that way. A lot of people do that. It's very common. I'm just not. That's just not the way I operate. Oh yeah, they still tour. They're a big touring band. They may not tour this year because their drummer retired not too long ago, and they are in the process of replacing him. I think they've had a few people that they've had in mind, but they haven't replaced them yet. And then, of course, once you replace them with another drummer, that drummer will have to be given some time to learn the vast discography or the vast amount of songs that he'll have to learn to play from from their touring. And Iron Maiden was kind of funny. They tend to stick to the same set list year after year, very rarely pulling stuff out and putting new stuff in. They like to play the same stuff over and over and over. So they have like 17 or 18 songs they play. They may pull a song here and there and put another one in, but there's certain songs they just never play. I would love to hear them play. Yeah, that was early on though. That happened with the Number of the Beast because you got to remember Iron Maiden was a heavy metal band, so people that were listening to them were heavy metal fans. But once they had the big hit Run to the Hills, um, that song was a mainstream hit. So then they started getting mainstream people who don't really follow metal but like to that song, and so they started seeing it, and then everybody started seeing it, and then so that Satanic label came. But that was from the mainstream, not from the metal people. They've been listening to them since the beginning. Well, that's easy enough. For me, if you were getting into Iron Maiden and you wanted to where to start with Iron Maiden, so pretty simple. These three albums: Run to the Hills on this one, Number of the Beast, very mainstream, easy, accessible song for people just getting into them. Peace of Mind, Flight of Icarus, another song very similar to Run to the Hills, high energy, very catchy riffs and hooks, kind of stuff that mainstream people like. And then, of course, 2 Minutes to Midnight, same story here on Power Slave. All three of them radio friendly, lots of hooks, lots of catchiness. So if you're wanting to get into Iron Maiden, that would be a good start. And then maybe you could listen to the rest of the albums. And then from there, you would move out, I think, in either direction, whichever direction you want to go, backwards or forwards. But you couldn't go wrong by picking The Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, or Power Slave. All three of these albums, great albums. And then you'd probably move up or down the ladder. I would probably maybe after that start going maybe No Prayer for the Dying or any of the other albums that came out pre-90s are all good stuff too. By the time you started getting into the other albums, though, you would probably be okay to listen to just about anything by Iron Maiden. They have a very consistent sound. They're one of the most consistently sounding bands out there, I think. Yeah, so I kind of did both there. I kind of gave you the songs that got a lot of radio play and were the most well-known songs commercially, and then the three albums that they were on, because those three albums are probably their best albums. Those commercial songs are not necessarily their best, like Run to the Hills, 2 Minutes to Midnight, The Flight of Icarus. They're all great songs, but I don't think they rate in the top 10 songs by Iron Maiden. The Trooper, uh, what is it? Can't even remember the name of the title now. Drawing a blank. That's what happens when you get old. Too many cookies, I guess. Hallowed Be Thy Name. These are all tracks that most people who are into the band will say are better. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. These are all much better tracks than those commercial ones, but the commercial ones get you in the door, and those ones are the ones that keep you there. My most obscure favorite, probably The Assassin. I like that song a lot. It's on No Prayer for the Dying. Such a great tune. Another one would be Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. That's a classic song, but it's maybe not as obscure. On that album has a lot of stuff on it that's really good. I'm looking for it here now. Yeah, this album has a lot of deep cuts on it. Moonchild, Infinite Dream. and maybe one of their greatest songs, "The Evil That Men Do." Absolutely killer song. And you get another song on this album too that is also a radio friendly and very commercial sounding. "Can I Play with Madness?" A lot of people really like this song. It's got really catchy rhythm. A real catchy riff. Lots of hooks. His voice is fantastic. Just everything about it is really great. But it's a commercial sounding song, so generally speaking, after you've listened to it 30 or 40 times, you'll kind of burn out on it. But this album has a lot. Even "Only the Good Die Young" is another really good deep cut for them. If you go to one of their biggest albums here, you've got where is it? 22 Acacia Avenue, another really deep cut, great track. "Peace of Mind." You've got "Revelations" and "Where Eagles Dare." They're very, very strong albums as well. Songs, I mean. But overall, if I had to go to a desert island and I could only take one Iron Maiden album with me, to be honest, I would probably go with, where is it? I would probably take this one just because it's still recent to me. Still has a lot of stuff on it, and every track on here is really good. There's not even any mediocre tracks. They're all really good. "Run Silent, Run Deep," another great deep cut, fantastic song. But to me, the biggest deep cut is on this album is "The Assassin." You got "Tail Gunner" on here, which is kind of a bit of a commercial sounding song, but fantastic tune, real catchy, lots of hooks. My favorite track on here is probably "Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter." It's absolutely fantastic tune. This album is just proliferated. It's a great album. I highly recommend it. No, there's nothing like that. Nothing I've heard. They have their commercial songs that sell well with not just with the Maiden fans, but do well with the commercial stuff. But I don't see, like, it's not like Judas Priest with their "You Got Another Thing Coming" or "Turbo Lover." Those songs are a little bit too far to the left for me. But with Iron Maiden, there's nothing really like that. I mean, maybe the closest track to that might be "Run to the Hills," but it's definitely not a sellout song. None of their radio friendly stuff I would call sellout at all. They're a little bit more commercially oriented to try and gain some radio play, but I would never call them sellouts. Well, if I'm going to a desert island with a lot of beautiful women, I don't think I need to bring any albums because I'm probably not likely going to survive that. So I won't have any reason to listen to anything. Yeah, so that's my Iron Maiden collection. I do kind of regret that I don't have any live Iron Maiden. I've seen a couple today, and if those albums are still there when I have the money to get them, I'd like to finish off the discography first. But there's two or three. They had a couple of live albums there that I hadn't seen before that possibly I would get them. Yeah, no, they're if I was make a list of the most consistent bands to their sound, or bands that have played a consistent sound throughout their discography or throughout their history, Iron Maiden's got to be right up there near the top of that. Even Black Sabbath, they had that one album, the first one with Tony Martin, that I've only heard those albums. Maybe I've gone through all of them maybe once. So I'm not as familiar with which one it might be, but there's one of them that sounds like very commercial. Even Technical Ecstasy seems to be a little bit too poppy for me. I've never really warmed up to them. I don't dislike the album. It's good, but it sounds like almost like they were going for that commercial sound. I've never seen them live. Nope, never seen them live. They came out for me. They came with this album, which is I think this was 1982, if I'm correct. I believe this was 82. The Number of the Beast album, which was my first one. So by the time this album came out in 82, and by the time I got it, which I didn't get it immediately, I did get it that same year. Of course, these albums are frustrating. They never tell you the year, but I'm pretty sure this was 82. I think it's the same year as the Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance. I got them both the same year, so I think they're both from 82. By the time these albums came out, I was not really going to rock concerts much. And I was trying to stay specifically away from the heavy metal ones because I was getting really bad ear problems and I didn't want to continue it. And going to an Iron Maiden concert was definitely not going to protect me from that. I had 3 days of ringing after the Black Sabbath concert with Ian Gillan. I don't think I could hear. I had a headache for 3 days. My ears rang. That was kind of the beginning of the end for me. I did not enjoy the experience at all and said to myself, I'm not going to do this anymore. But I did go to a couple more after that. But nothing in the metal realm, that's for sure. Yeah, that whole album, Turbo Lover. They've had a few others that aren't that great either. I don't feel that way about any of the Iron Maiden albums, other than there's 2 or 3 that are new to me that I'm not sure about yet. So we'll see. But the Turbo Lover, what is it called? Nostradamus. No, that's a terrible album. But Judas Priest had a couple that were that good. I like their sound, and I think the 2 strengths of both of those bands, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, is their vocalists are extraordinary. To be able to sing that kind of stuff so late and still have the vocal sound that you had throughout, and both of them do. Both Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson sound as good if they ever sounded, and that's a hard thing to do, singing that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was prior to the earplugs day. Now, maybe if I'd been wearing earplugs, I might be different. Maybe I would have continued to go to rock concerts at a steady pace. I think I was going to about 4 or 5 of them a year up until that point. And then I just decided I was kind of not wanting to go there anymore. I never seen Iron Maiden. I never seen Judas Priest. Would have liked to see them both. Don't think they're 2 bands I might consider seeing if they were to come here now, but it's just such a different animal now than it was in the 70s and 80s. It's so expensive, and I'm not really into that scene at all. I'm not really a rock concert live stuff. I do enjoy the live DVDs that so many of these bands make, because I can watch them at the level I want. I can enjoy them without having some goofball beside me doing some stupid thing. Yeah, I'm not really into that anymore. Yeah, I just decided, it's not worth damaging your hearing just to go to a concert. Now, some people caught on early in the game about putting earplugs on, and there's people that do this kind of thing online that probably have gone to more than 1,000 concerts. I simply couldn't afford to do that now. It's just it's very expensive. Very expensive. Most of these bands all want to do the same thing. They want smaller, more intimate venues. They don't want these big 20,000 seat stadiums for the most part. So they do some concerts like that, but they generally like the more intimate stadiums that they can charge a lot more for, and they don't have as big of a problem as they would with a bigger crowd, right? Yeah, I would never call myself a concert going person. My friend that I grew up with, he was the guy that kind of pushed me on these bands all the time. So most of the concerts I went to, I'm trying to think of them all. I don't recall only one concert I went to see at the CNE grandstand with another guy from work, and we went to see Triumph. And I may have seen something else with somebody else from work at the time, but primarily almost everything that I seen concert wise was with him. So he would get the tickets and we would go together. That was our thing, one of our things. Anyways, we had lots of things, but that was one of them. So when I decided not to go anymore, he started going to these things with his other two buddies, and so he continued to do it. I don't know if he still does. I haven't seen him for years, but that's kind of for me where it's kind of generated. I've seen a lot of concert. I would call these bar concerts. I've seen a lot of those with other people, smaller venues like a bar. My cousin Rosemary was in a band called Now Voyager, which did cover stuff, mostly stuff Heart and Pat Benatar and Dire Straits and stuff like that. And she was the vocalist. And so I seen her playing at a Roadhouse one time. So that's kind of those. So maybe I'd seen a dozen of those. Rick Spider, Lucky Seven, all these kind of bar type bands. My friend Ian actually played in a kind of a reggae rock band. He was the guitarist in that, so I seen him once too. So, yeah. So, yeah, kind of the last concert that I remember going to was in New Zealand to see Elton John back in 1990. That was one of the worst concerts I've ever been to. He played nothing from his classic era. It was all these ballads from the 1980s and 90s, or well, I guess it would have been the 80s. And I knew none of them and wasn't interested in any of them. So it was just something to do on a Saturday night when we were in New Zealand. So that's it for me tonight. This one's not going to be as long as the other one because it's the weeknight and I got still got to feed myself and do my baseball and go to bed. But I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hammer of the Gods featuring Iron Maiden. So I'm not going to post another one until I decide after Sunday morning whether I'm going to stick with doing 2 separate days for these videos or have them alternate on Thursday night. I think I'm probably going to lean towards the Thursday night and see how that goes, but we'll see what happens. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we will likely be back next week with another episode of Hammer of the Gods, and that's likely how it's going to go. I haven't decided on a topic yet. I have another band in mind. I might do something like this, or I may talk about metal in general. I don't know what the topic's going to be honest. Yeah, I never seen the Flock of Seagulls. They're the band that only had like about 2 or 3 albums. Never really became the superstar band that I thought they would be. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think there's any question I would have to ask or really anything other than who's going to be your next drummer. You might be curious about who they're going to choose for the new drummer now that Nickel McBrain is gone. I've never seen them live. Never seen them live. Not even on video. Haven't seen them live. But I will get some live DVDs, and then I'll be able to say I've seen them live. Anyways, I'm going to have to cut it short, guys. Thanks for showing up and supporting me, and I hope you enjoyed the episode of Iron Maiden here on Hammer of the Gods. Hammer of the Gods. We'll be back next week with another episode, and so take care and have yourself a good evening and good night. Goodbye. Oh, don't forget, we have another live one Sunday morning. That 70s rock, hard rock rankers featuring Kiss. We'll be ranking the studio discography from Kiss from the 1970s. So I hope to see you all then. So take care and have yourself a good night and goodbye. Doesn't want to end.